Today we'll be dealing with a small economy concept. So that concept is called reverse flipping. Why are we discussing this today is because it's been recently news. It's been recently news where the economic survey 22-23 has actually recognized this method. Therefore, it is very important. So first, understand this word reverse. That means it's the opposite or the ulta part. So to understand reverse flipping, first we need to understand what is flipping in terms of economy and companies. So before we move ahead, I would like to explain this concept in simple terms. I hope everyone understands that. So fundamentally what happens is, in flipping concept, there are two phases in it. Just let's try to understand this concept without flipping. So you have residential shareholders, non-residential shareholders. All of them start investing in Indian companies. So all of them will be listed on the Indian Stock Exchange and automatically they become shareholders of an Indian company. This is pre-flipping part. That is before flipping, this is a normal tendency. Now let's see what happens post-flipping. In post-flipping, what happens is same residents, non-residents, all of them, what happens is the shareholders, the company holders will change their base location so that more foreign capital will come, ease of doing business in that sense. So what they will do is they will start investing in a foreign company, and this foreign company is actually it is originally an Indian company which has been converted as a subsidiary of a foreign company. Once it becomes a subsidiary, what happens is this company sells all its shares plus intellectual property rights to this foreign entity. So what happens is an Indian company originally changed its base location to a foreign company. The foreign company has actually is now owning the Indian company in terms of shares, but all the profits and the benefits are actually to the Indian company. This is acknowledged by the RBI also before. So this is called flipping model. So you are flipping the ownership from an Indian company to a foreign company, but the benefits and the profits and all these things are still under the Indian company only, except that the shareholders per se it becomes a foreign company, IPR per se it becomes a foreign company, but the benefits are reaped up by the Indian company. This process is called flipping. So what is the necessity for doing it is because when your country model is not so business oriented, these businessmen And when the laws are too strict, what happens is, or there are a lot of levels of bureaucracy, a lot of levels of taxation and all that, it is not good for a businessman who wants to earn profit. More than half the amount is getting on into taxes and all these things. So what happens, they shifted their base to a foreign location. There they started doing business, and that becomes, it becomes very easy for foreign capital to easily flow from here into the Indian company. That is what happens in the flipping model. This was done for a time, but now the trend has changed. India has become the hub for all the worldwide economies. Looking at the kind of youth we have and the culture of startups, economy is growing, it's opening up, and the cost is very effective. Low cost, great intelligence, and 66% youth in our country. So it's the haven for all the beautiful businesses that can be done. So what happens is, in reverse flipping, it's very simple. Residents, non-residents, but these are from foreign nationals, foreigners, they start investing into Indian companies. Foreign capital directly coming into the Indian companies, entity being foreign, but ownership will be Indian. This is called reverse flipping. So initially it was foreign companies owning the Indian company, or the Indian company being a subsidiary of a foreign company. That is flipping model. Reverse flipping, foreign companies become subsidiary of Indian companies. Of course, they share the profits. So these Indian companies will have shares plus IPRs of the foreign companies into the Indian companies. This is called reverse flipping. Why is it reverse flipping? Is because it is reverse of flipping. As simple as that. So the best part, why this is happening now, is because ease of doing business for India has grown like crazy. People, the culture of startups is like, it's fantastic. So to take profits from such a beautiful economic geography, foreign capital starts flowing into the country. So to make India a superpower very soon, this will be one of the game changer. So I hope all of you have understood the concept. So just small slides. Let's go ahead. So what is flipping? This is not reverse flipping, please. It's flipping. The process of transferring the entire ownership of an Indian company to an overseas entity. Indian company share, transferring everything into the name of a foreign company, accompanied by a transfer of IPRs as well as data owned by the Indian company. That's flipping model. So what happens is, the Indian company becomes a subsidiary of the foreign entity, with founders and investors retaining the same ownership via the foreign entity having swapped all shares. So ownership is still retained by the Indian owners, but the business is all run by the foreign. So I hope you've understood flipping. Now let's reverse flipping. It's a trend of overseas startup. So startups in the overseas, there it has become very costly in the foreign lands. Therefore they come to India, start doing business, because India is a startup culture. And listing on the Indian stock exchanges. That's the best part. So what is the best part? How is it okay? Reverse flipping happens. How is it useful to India? It's favorable because for economic policies, we have tax breaks, funding assistance. Domestic market will increase like crazy. Growing investor confidence in the country's startup ecosystem. This is very important. Growing investors' confidence. Once the market boosts, there is a lot of business which happens. It's always good for a businessman. And there's a huge institutional support. The International Financial Service Center Authority and all these things. This is the body which actually encourages the best part. But the best part is, it has been, this rule has been under the FEMA Act, Foreign Exchanges Management Act, and the RBI has actually acknowledged it, said yes, let's go ahead, let's do it, because it's a time to make market flow, make India richer, make the best out of the time right now. So that's the best part. The international financial services prelims ke liye it might be useful, especially with respect to the location. International Financial Services Center Authority, headquarters Gujarat. And how is it useful? Because we have a huge startup hub, it increases the ease of doing business, it's good for India's economic growth. The huge skill, 66% youth, and the culture of startup. Example, you have T Hub over here, huge startup culture. And end of the day, India has always been the best consumer market. We buy a lot of products, a lot of consumerism, so increases the consumer attitude, and this is a big strength for the economic growth of the country. So a quick revision: flipping, ownership of an Indian company going to overseas entity, shares and everything goes into the foreign lands, but the ownership is still investors retained by the same ownership. Founders and investors are retaining the ownership. Benefits, you have taxation benefits, ease of doing business, foreign capital attraction. But the only thing is the domicile has been shifted. Moving on, reverse flipping, it is opposite of flipping. It is a trend of overseas startup. Please try to understand. Overseas startup moving to India and listing on Indian stock exchanges. Listing is happening on Indian stock exchanges. That is the reason. And what is the best part? It's good because why it is happening is because we have good economic policies, we have tax breakups, funding assistance, domestic market increases. There's a lot of institutional support, supported by International Financial Services Center Authority, which was established in 2020 and headquarters is in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. And finally, what's the best part? How is it useful to us? Startup hub, ease of doing business increases. It's good for India's economic growth, huge skill capital, and then finally, a lot of consumers. And that's all for today. I'll catch up with another topic tomorrow. Thank you. Have a nice day.